good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching, and welcome back to another episode of Constellation Crew. This one in particular is a very special episode, if I do say so myself, because I'm leaving. Bye, guys. I'm leaving
Bye.
now. I'm just kidding. Um, I am graduating this semester, which means that I get to say goodbye to my crew members, and I will no longer be the host for the 2024 or 2023 to 2024 schools year. However, I did do some digging around for the graduate school here, so maybe you'll see me as a special guest. And I know all of my audience members will miss me and my charisma and my spunk, but there has to be a new host. The show must go on without me. The show isn't me. The show is the crew. That's the whole point. So, enough about me and my goodbyes. We have some great stuff to talk about today. Some new stuff, some new astronomy stuff. That's the fun thing about astronomy. There's always something new to discover, in my opinion, especially with all the mysteries of the world. But we also have a fantastic guest with us today, someone you might recognize from really old Constellation Crew episodes from our OG fans. Where are you at? Like this video if you're an OG fan. Um, welcome, Melanie Isenbarger. Say hi.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I have been on Constellation Crew a number of times, but it's been a while. I'm very, very happy to be back, especially alongside you for your last episode, Nicolette. So congratulations on graduation. You've been a great help here. We're definitely going to miss you here on the crew.
I know I'm gonna miss this so much. That's for all my young viewers out there looking for colleges soon, or a place to go to school, or a new job even. Got to find a place where you feel so welcome and feel like you belong so much and you love your career so much that the thought of leaving literally makes you sad. That's me right now. I don't want to graduate just because of this job, and I love it here. But before we get started, we have some questions for our guests, because the last time that Melanie was a guest, she was a student here at Ball State. So now she is the Planetarium Show Specialist. So that covers the question of what do you do, but would you like to expand on what does Planetarium Show Specialist mean?
Yeah, good question. So, as the Planetarium Show Specialist, I work a lot with getting groups from all around the community into the dome for visits so they can come see planetarium shows free of charge. And I do a lot of school groups, community groups, Girl Scouts, anywhere from preschool up through senior citizens, anyone you can imagine. We like to welcome them here in the dome and give them some really fun, good quality educational programming.
Nice, very cool. All right, so we're gonna combine the last two questions in one, even though this one is interesting. Why are you here? You have to
Yeah.
be here. But and also, what got you into your career?
Yeah, so kind of specific to today, what got me into this episode was kind of being a special guest and having been on the crew in the past. Like I said, it's really nice to be back for another episode. But kind of more broad, what got me into planetariums or astronomy in general was actually a class in high school. I had a teacher, an astronomy class that was next door in a planetarium in my high school. So it was we were very fortunate to have that as a resource, and I realized that this style of learning and having all of these different things to help you understand astronomy content better, because I think most people find astronomy interesting and some people kind of leave it at that, but I really wanted to know more, and having a space like a planetarium really helping all different kinds of learners and giving you different ways to learn astronomy content was really impactful for me. And I realized I wanted to go to a school that not only had a planetarium, but that I wanted to pursue astronomy myself.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, visual stuff with anything, especially science, is very, very
Yeah.
helpful. Shout out to Mr. Bush at Zion Benton Township High School in Zion, Illinois, who got me into physics in the first place. Wonderful man. He did amazing demos for us, and it was really, really fun because it really not only made the subject enjoyable,
Yeah.
because I love physics, but I can also respect the fact that I come to physics easy. It makes sense to me, and I like it. It's not the same for everyone. Some people may be interested, but it's not as easy for them to understand, or just the idea of seeing a math equation on the board makes them want to run away screaming. So I understand that sometimes you need something to not only grab the attention, but also help make sense of a very complex topic. Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're all about meeting people where they are, never wanting them to feel quizzed or tested or anything. Really just wanting to kind of nurture that natural kind of curiosity that people have. and sometimes lose as they grow older. We really want to make sure people are keeping that and staying curious.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that there's definitely an outlet for that. So, today is going to be a pretty easy episode. Like I said, we're going to cover some new stuff because there's been new astronomy stuff, and we're going to cover some old stuff. We're going to visit some friends of ours, some constellations that we are familiar with, or rather, an asterism that is within a constellation that we are familiar with, and some other cool stuff like that. And we'll end the program with a brief interview with Melanie. But to start, we are going to visit some friends. Before we visit our friends, I would like to mention that we are facing south here in Muncie, in Stellarium in Muncie. We try to make it look somewhat authentic. And of course, it's just after sunset. So sunset to me as a kid, I always felt that this was sunset. This is technically slightly past sunset. Sunset is like when the sun is at the horizon, really. This is more below the horizon. But just after sunset, and our lovely friend Orion is leaving the sky. I always forget that Orion does, because Orion is up high in the sky for so long, and then all of a sudden, yeah, Orion's just, bye Orion, see you later. Come back again. But we're gonna take a brief spin. I'm gonna try to make it as smooth as possible, because we're going to see our friends in the north. Not Canada, our constellations in the north. And there's our sun again. Hello. So now we're here in the north, and I'm gonna make sure our viewers can actually see, because I'm pretty sure our viewers have come to realize that sometimes I don't recognize that you guys can't see what I'm talking about when I'm pointing things out. So here we go. All right, so now we're north-ish, northeast, more rather. But we have some friends here in the north that we would like to say hi to, and I believe Kyree can help us out.
Exactly. So, first off, we're just gonna talk a bit about what we're exactly looking at when we look at the north, and that would bring us to Polaris, which is known as our North Star. So, the special thing about Polaris is that it's relatively directly above the North Pole. There's a bit of variance, but it's still like generally pointing north. So, as you can see on your screen now, if you make a straight line going up, from north, you can kind of see a star that's like really close to it. And that right there is Polaris. There is a misconception that Polaris is the brightest star in our sky. That is wrong. The brightest star is actually Sirius, and you'd be looking in a totally different direction.
Definitely not north. I think it's almost opposite in southwest right now. Yeah.
So please do not believe that Polaris is the brightest sky. I mean, the brightest star in our sky.
Yeah. Even.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, even though in the dome, so the magical thing about planetariums, and even in Stellarium here, I can do it now. I just turned off the atmosphere, and I'm going to turn it back on. So in the dome, we can do that. We can make it the perfect weather conditions. No clouds, no atmosphere interference, stuff like that. And even with that, Polaris is so hard to see. I would even argue that without the atmosphere, it makes it even more difficult to see where Polaris is, or even familiar constellations like Orion, because now there's more dots in the sky. And I'm not going to turn it off again, because I just don't want to keep changing the ambiance. Sometimes a change in brightness is sudden and scary. At least it is for me. But
all right, and now we are going to talk about the friends that Nicolette has mentioned earlier. And what we are going to talk about is, can I get a drum roll, please?
We can hear it on the table, because I was going to clap, but that's a round of applause. There we go. And I'm not rolling my R's on a microphone.
Nicolette. It's your last show. You can ad-lib as much as you want.
Yeah, and I'm not rolling my R's on a microphone. I just, no. I took French for a reason.
Oh, man.
Just broke Kyree.
I'm going to probably miss you.
Probably. Okay.
Probably.
That's good the enough. Nicest thing you've ever said, Kyree.
I can vouch for that.
Well, our drum roll's way past gone because we went off on a tangent, but the friends that we're looking at is actually Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And we're actually going to start off by just giving a little bit of quote-unquote mythology history. I'll give it that. And essentially, the story about Ursa Major and Ursa Minor is that long ago, Zeus had a son with a woman named Callisto. And once Hera learned about this, Hera was like super mad. So she turned Callisto into a bear. And then years later, after Callisto and Zeus's son grew up, one day the son was hunting, and he happened to find a very large bear, and it just so happened to be his mother. And in a swift motion, in order to save Callisto and his son, he turned them both into bears and sent them up into the sky. So that's the story behind them.
Yay.
So a really easy way to find Ursa Major is by actually using the asterism that a lot of people do know. Does anyone know what it is? Opening it up to anybody.
Oh, I don't have it on my bracelet. I have the other one. I gave our planetarium director a gift this morning, and she has the asterism on her bracelet right now.
What is the name of the asterism?
Big Dipper or Big Spoon.
Exactly, that is correct. So the Big Dipper is close to north, so that means as the Earth rotates, the Big Dipper will like follow a small circular path. And as Nicolette is pointing it now, she has already found the Big Dipper before I even asked if anyone could find where it is.
It's really easy to spot, especially since it's upside down. And
Yep.
yeah,
I
I also had
understand.
my coffee this morning. I'm a bit jittery.
Exactly.
I'll click on it.
And the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper is the asterism that is a part of Ursa Major. But we can actually use Ursa Major, the Big Dipper as well, to find the Little Dipper, which is a part of the constellation Ursa Minor. So by using the end of the spoon, so if you could, yep, there is a line connecting those two stars, and you can make a straight line, I believe, going downwards. Is that
Like
correct?
you're pouring something out of the spoon. Yep.
Exactly. Like you're pouring something out of the spoon, and you can follow that path downwards, and then you should hit the tip, or well, the end handle of Ursa Minor. Or, well, not Ursa Minor, the Little Dipper. And if you could bring that. Perfect.
I always say if we've got Big Dipper in the Big Bear, where does the Little Dipper have to be? There's got to be a Little Bear, right?
Exactly.
And there's a little bit of an artifact I see from them being thrown up into the sky.
Yeah, they're long tails. I was going to bring that up as well.
It's always the first thing I notice.
Yeah, I don't like. You ever? What's the term? There's a fancy word for like when you're trying to make something fit or make something work, and I can't remember what the term is, but that's basically what it's trying to do. Is like you make these shapes in the sky, right? And there's this extra long tail, so they're like, I want it to be a bear, but bears don't have long tails. Well, now they do. Now there's a long tail. Let's just and of course in the myth, some people say that Zeus literally picked up his son and Callisto and was like, go into the sky, and just threw him up there. And that's why they have long tails, because he grabbed them by the tails and threw them up there. But I just, I would like to have more fluffy boys in our life. Because I love golden retrievers because they have feather dusters for tails. And I feel like anything with a really long tail or a floofy tail is a friend. And I think we should have some more floofy boys. But that would.
I have a problem where I really want to pet a bear, and I know that I can't do it with their little ears. So if they had tails like this, I don't think I could help myself.
Without fail, whenever I play Minecraft, I will always find the baby polar bear and want to pet it, and then right behind me is the mama polar bear, and instant sleep. Instant Pokemon faint of my Minecraft character for RPG friends. And I am just so sad because all I wanted to do was pet the polar bear, but Mama said no. Mama bear said no.
Yep.
Understandable.
Very protective, so I'm glad little baby bears got the mama bear to
Exactly. And then we can also point out something interesting about the star we just pointed out, which I literally just talked about a few seconds ago, is Polaris. Polaris is actually part of the Little Dipper asteroid.
Yay. So cute. I'm curious now that I know all the buttons. Yeah, it's just way too difficult. No, thank you.
There's a lot of stars up there, it turns out.
Yeah.
There are.
And then when you just getting rid of everything now. And in Stellarium here for this program, we always try to make the sky look as close to Muncie as possible, so that when we're showing you constellations and things, it's easier for you to go outside and say, oh yeah, I saw this in Constellation Crew today. The sky looks exactly like this, where this is something you could see sort of slightly, this is slightly scaled a little too high. In terms of how big the stars look in the sky. We make them a little bit bigger to see. But this is what you would see if it was completely dark and you were out there for like 30 minutes, letting your eyes adjust and kick into your nocturnal vision and all of that fun stuff, which is really, really hard to find nowadays. At least a safe location, right? Because I could go in the middle of the deserts in Chile, but I better have a lot of water and a place and a way to get out of the desert. But here we are, and we're back. Any comments on the Big and Little Dipper before we move on?
From me, any from you, Mel?
It's a really great one to kind of start off with if you're new to looking up at the night sky. So if you can find the North Star and verify for yourself it is not the brightest star in the night sky, that's a pretty important lesson to take with you.
Yeah, and even now in Stellarium, like Polaris looks really obvious. I don't even see it when I go outside.
Yeah, it's tricky on its own, but if you can find that Big Dipper, then you've got a good way to look for it. Makes it a lot easier.
And for our OG members or recent members, you all know that I must ask this question. I need to know if anyone has the children's book that has the light up Little Dipper and Big Dipper bear book. It's a bear book. It's about Ursa Major. And at the end of the book, you push a button and it lights up for the Ursa Major constellation. And I would really like that book, please. I would like to know what the title is, who it's by, and where I can purchase said book. So still on the lookout for that. And that would be a great graduation present for those who are dedicated. Now we got that out of the way. We are going to spin back to the south. So aside from that, we have something very new that happened recently that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. It's something called juice. Not apple juice, not orange juice, just juice, which I will explain what juice is in this case. But does anyone else know what juice is right now?
Isn't it like a drink extracted from fruits or something?
Right. I know it was my first word because I was very into that drink extracted from orange juice. Or oranges.
A drink extracted from orange juice. Nice.
Yeah, it's from concentrate.
So is it called concentrated orange juice?
Yes.
Gotcha.
You know that frozen stuff in a cylindrical thing that your mom put in the pour spout in the morning? Yeah, that.
Unironically,
they put one of those out in space. That's what we're talking about.
Actually, unironically, do any of y'all like? I think it was the Wiggles. Do y'all remember the Wiggles?
I do.
I think they had like one episode about like freezing orange juice and like you could have like your own orange popsicle.
That sounds pretty good. I'm gonna have to try that.
The Wiggles were my life.
Oh
my life as a child. I went to go see them. I don't think I got to see them live per se, but I went to go see Wiggles the musical. Like I saw Wiggles everything. And one day Wiggles is on. I'm dancing little toddler. And my mom's just curious at this point, wanting to know who is my favorite guy, meaning the Wiggles. She asked me that very question. Who is your favorite guy? And she was thinking I was going to say the one in yellow because my favorite color when I was young is yellow. But I looked at my mom in my cute little toddler voice and my little toddler clothes, and I said, Daddy's my favorite guy.
Oh, she's a good answer.
So, yeah. But I even had Wiggles the board game. OG fans know that Wiggles had a board game, and I had it, and it was great. And fruit salad, yummy, yummy, always playing in here. I'm taking an astronomy test. Fruit salad, yeah.
All right, you actually went up me there, but yeah, no, I also really loved Wiggles as a kid. My mom like talks, just like kind of makes fun of me about it to this day constantly. I had DVDs, I had everything. I don't remember if I went to the musical. I know I did not have the board game. But yeah, no, she would get irritated sometimes.
Yeah, the VHS tapes, man, the Christmas special.
Oh, man.
Loved the Wiggles. Best times. Okay, so, well, aside from our Wiggles friends, I'm pretty sure they did a Juice episode, but I just remember fruit salad.
It might be another, but I know for a fact that I do remember some cartoon doing a frozen orange juice thing.
They might have done, yeah, like they were because sometimes the Wiggles would do episodes to like have kids do stuff for their parents and like chores around the house, teaching kids to be
Yep.
responsible. So they were probably like,
Yep.
how about you make the orange juice in the morning instead of your mom making orange juice? But aside from that, this type of juice is not orange juice or apple juice or juice from a fruit. It's not any juice that you can drink. It is an object, if you will. So JUICE stands for Jupiter Icy Moon Explorer. Funny
That
enough,
doesn't sound tasty, but interesting
Oh.
enough.
I think it's really cool. And if you see the
Nothing wrong
acronym
with
when you look it up in Google for all of our Constellation Crew watchers, you'll see that Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, blah. JU in Jupiter is capitalized for the JU in juice, and then IC is capitalized in icy, and moons gets nothing, and then E in explorer is capitalized. So it's basically saying JUICE. What's interesting about JUICE is that we always talk about NASA missions, right? Everything NASA's the big kahuna, the big fish in a small pond, and NASA does all these cool things. Well, this is actually an ESA mission. So European Space Agency mission. They are the main leader. NASA, of course, is involved. They're a contributor, as well as the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency and the Israel Space Agency, I believe. So all of these people are involved, which is great, but the main leader of this mission is the European Space Agency. So thank you for doing this mission. This is super exciting because, as I mentioned, it is an icy moon explorer, Jupiter's icy moon explorer. So it's going to check out the icy moons of Jupiter. So we're looking at Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa. So first we're going to be checking out Ganymede and Callisto and doing a lot of cool stuff. We want to know everything about them, right? We want to know, are there bodies of water on the top of this moon? And where are they? We want to map out the surface of each of these moons. We want to know what is that, water or is that liquid methane like on Titan? We want to know what that is and find all of that, all the material on what's on the surface. Ice, what gases are there, and map it out. See if there's a higher concentration of a certain gas in one location to the other and why. We're also going to be studying stuff like any makeshift objects, so a lot of geophysics and geoscience, geology, if you will. Because we have a general idea in a sense, but this is going to be the first time that we really study these up close for so long. And while JUICE is there, it's always also going to be checking out Jupiter and its magnetic field and how it interacts with all the planets and stuff like that. And finally, we're going to look at Europa as well, mostly just looking at kind of the chemistry of life for Europa, because Europa's special. Europa's the one that we always mention in when we talk about science and the moons and maybe some moons that may have life. Europa always comes up because Europa is theorized to have a thick icy crust, but then an ocean underneath. Mm-hmm. So we want to know, is Europa harboring life under there or on top of there? Maybe it's on the surface and we just don't know. Maybe there's some penguins on Europa. It's a perfect place for the penguins to chill, you know, ice fishing and whatnot.
Better find out, yeah.
Exactly. So it's mostly a life mission, seeing if there's any life on these icy moons and checking out what they are, what they look like, what their surfaces look like, kind of like what we've been doing for Mars over the past couple of years. So there's all kinds of cool stuff with that. But science aside, JUICE is very special because on the launch date, we had a photobomb by an animal friend. But can anyone guess the animal friend? If you know, don't answer.
Good question. I don't know.
Can I give you a hint?
Okay.
It's one you wouldn't expect to be very quick at running to photobomb a picture.
No.
Then that would be like relatively every animal except for the ones that run really fast. Can I get another?
So I can give you a big one that'll at least cut down 50% of your guesses.
Okay.
It can't fly.
I was really thinking it was a bird or something.
Right? Yeah, wow. I know. That was my first guess. An eagle or a hawk, a crow maybe, the raven.
Do you remember where it launched from?
I do not. That would also...
That's good context clues.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it launched from, location
No.
wise. That was not on my radar. I was too focused on this image because Dana, our planetarium director, got a hold of one of the images of the photobomber, and it is just so cute. And we're not going to talk about what probably happened after the launch. Okay, we're not going to talk about it.
It's not going to be one you'll guess, Kyree, I don't think.
I doubt it will be, because I'm already, going off of a limb, and just because of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, I'm just gonna say bear, maybe like a baby bear or something.
That's a close guess, to be honest with you. That's pretty close. So I will reveal our photobomber friend. I initially guessed an eagle and all of that, and Dana said, nope.
Is that a sloth?
Yeah, sure is.
Rose out of the grass. You're welcome. And as you could probably notice, he's pretty close to that rocket. This poor little fella. No. He's fine. He went back in the grass. He's fine. Absolutely.
You got front row seats.
He got front row seats. He really wanted to see it.
Good, big fan.
So cute. What a good friend. Oh, we love our animal friends at Constellation Crew. Well, there we go. Now that the sharing of the screen, apologies. Now that the sharing of the screen is over, back to the originally scheduled program. There we go. So yes, we had a sloth photobomb, but that's okay. It happens. It's a happy day.
Happens to the best of us. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So now that we have covered juice, we have some other big news going on, because we did get a black hole image, if we all remember correctly, of what black hole?
M87.
Yeah.
So that was really big news, right? But I don't know about you all. I was very, very excited, right? And the biggest part about it for me was that there was a woman in particular who looked a lot like me. She had long brunette hair and glasses to wear, and she works for NASA, and she had a huge contribution to it. I can't remember her name at the moment, and I apologize. But just seeing her face and how she was on the team to contribute to that was huge for me as a woman in STEM. But also, I looked at the image and I was happy that we got it, but I was like, why is it so fuzzy? Why? Why is it so fuzzy?
And then you remember how far away it is, and
well, yeah, that too,
There's
how
actually
small it is, and I'm like,
there's actually some really cool history on the entire thing that I actually do want to mention. So the first thing that we need to iterate is the difference between ground space telescopes and telescopes that are in orbit. So can anyone on the crew or you, Mel, tell me why telescopes in space are better, I'll give it quotation marks, than telescopes that are on the ground?
I think it depends a little on what kind of telescope. But
yeah, it depends a lot on what kind of telescope, which is why I don't want to say quote unquote better. But
right, yeah, but definitely things like the atmosphere or radio interference from humans on Earth, things like that.
Exactly, and it's because of those, we'll call them variables, that can like lessen the images that we get from a telescope. Whereas if we're using a telescope that is in space, we have less variables to worry about. It's not gonna have to worry about an atmosphere, so on and so forth. But the problem with that is sending a telescope into space can be quite expensive, let alone making a telescope. So a lot of research institutions have to just use publicly given images from the space telescopes or their own telescopes that they have based on the ground. So for a while now, what scientists have been doing, which I find really cool, is utilizing AI to clear up images that are gotten from the ground. There's like still like certain requirements for the image, like if it's like too blurry or like too low of a quality, it doesn't work. But essentially, it can improve the quality of images that we get from our ground-based telescopes, making them better, essentially. And the image from M87, I believe the article dropped, I want to say, a week or two.
A few weeks ago,
the whole AI program was finally finished, and they utilized that to
finally
finished. But before it was announced via article, and they used essentially that program to clear up the ground-based images.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same data as that original image of M87 star, but they could use like
They
machine
can use
learning. Is that right?
exactly.
Okay, yeah,
Exactly.
very cool.
Okay, so then am I correct? I thought that they just retook the image and moved a satellite a little bit more to the left, and that's why it was a little bit more clear. Um, so am
They
I
still
wrong in
also,
that regard? The whole point of
I
that
don't
was
believe
that.
you're wrong, but they did also incorporate the machine learning, because if you do look, I did research on this because I also did this as an assignment for my honors class like not too long ago, which is why I actually know a decent bit about it. They did also incorporate the program into it.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
and kind of what you said, Nicolette, about did they move a satellite? And that's what's impressive about this image is that it was ground-based telescopes because you can only make space-based telescopes so big. So kind of what they did was have, I think, 8
Yes,
ground-based telescopes, which were scattered all around the world, which is kind of like having a telescope the size of the entire Earth, which is definitely not something we can build and send out into space. So that's kind of another benefit of having those collaborations between ground-based telescopes.
exactly.
Wow. Yeah, because like the new black hole image is so much clearer, and that's what I like about it. I entirely thought that they redid the whole process again and took a new picture. And again, they just like moved a telescope more to the or telescope, a satellite a little bit more to the left. And it just magically became clear because sometimes if you just hit the focus button enough on your iPhone, magically it'll start to focus again and everything's clear and you can see. Or in the case of me and my mother, why is it so blurry? Rubs the lens on their pants. Oh, it's just
If only it were that easy.
right.
I
Yeah,
will.
with astronomy, if only. Yeah, to get rid of the dust, you just, you wipe the lens. It's fine. That was weird. Sorry, a fan turned on one of the computers and I was like, "Why? Why did that happen?" Short attention span, squirrel. Anyway, so that's what's also been new is that we got a new black hole image. I just did not know that it was all about that AI stuff, which is very, very
Yep,
interesting.
machine-based learning.
This gives AI and machine learning a little bit more of a positive name because I don't know about you all, but when I was a kid, anytime I heard AI, I automatically thought of robots taking over the world and being really mean and horrible things happening. For all of my gaming friends out there, they probably thought of Halo. Um, so it's just like I was like, oh no, but this gives AI a better name in the regards of now we have a really cool black hole image, and if you want to see it, I believe the planetarium has either posted about it already or is going to at some point because that is pretty cool. So just keep an eye out on our social media page in general because we're a really cool planetarium and we post about really cool things and you should really check out our Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. But also take a look and see if we either did a post already or plan to do one in the future about the new image. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the moon again. Yay, back our good old friend the moon here. Hello. Our little light bringer at night, our little night light, if you will. So on April 28th, the moon is, oh gosh, I'm not going to say this correctly. The other thing that I can't do, other than spell, is pronounce things correctly. And you would think, Nicolette, why don't you just do it before you go to Constellation Crew? You'd think that I'd be that
We're
smart.
learning together. That's okay.
Yeah. so
Everything's
I
a learning process.
So the moon is going to be an apogee point on the 28th of April. So what that means is that it's going to be its furthest point from the Earth. So in elementary school, you kind of get a picture of the solar system, right? And you see all of the planets orbiting the sun as they should, and the moons orbiting the Earth like they should. But we always see very perfect circles. And I actually had to draw the solar system as a child, and I would get like a coffee can, right? And or different varying perfect circles, a jar if you and lids of things, and I would do perfect circles. Something orbits in more of an elliptical shape, or for our elementary school friends, it's an oval, but the proper scientific name is an ellipse, oval, ellipse. I like oval, it sounds nice. So The moon also orbits the Earth in a more elliptical sort of shape, and the Earth is not in the center of that orbit, right? Because we would draw the solar system again, and everything's in the center of those circles. That is not the case for the moon as well. So there is going to be a point where it's orbiting Earth, and it's going to be a little bit further out than any other point in its orbit around the Earth, and that is what an apogee point means. So it's not an exact measurement, right? So it's not like when it hits 10 kilometers, that's it. That's the furthest point. It's roughly around either 405,000 kilometers or more. So from there and beyond, that's the furthest point, and that's the apogee point for the moon. But why does that matter? Why do we care? It doesn't necessarily make the moon any smaller, really. It does in a sense, but it's not enough for you to look up the sky and be like, oh my gosh, the moon shrunk. What happened? It's very, very small. Very small of a difference. But what this creates is a micromoon. Cute little name, Small Things. I love small things and small foods. I used to, as a kid, chop all my food into tiny little pieces because I said it would taste better, and it still does as an adult. But a micromoon is important when it comes to solar eclipses. Because, again, it's not small enough for you to notice in the sky, but it'll be very apparent when the moon eclipses the sun. There we go. Plurals. Remember to pay attention at school when you're talking about nouns and plurals and verbs and things. So, when a micromoon occurs on a total solar eclipse, it makes it possible for you to see a phenomenon called the Ring of Fire. So the Ring of Fire is when the moon is the perfect shape, right? It perfectly covers the sun. You see the corona, all these little ghost-like wisps around the edge of the now eclipsed sun and moon here. But with a micromoon, it's slightly smaller, so you'll see a faint ring of the sun going around.
On surface? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Ring of Fire. And Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, that is not a safe total eclipse to view, right? Because
Right, yeah, we can't call it a total eclipse because it's only total if the entire surface of the sun is covered.
Okay.
So the corona is not part of the sun's surface. That's why when we see that during a total eclipse, when the whole surface of the sun is covered by the moon, that's okay to look at because it's not actually that bright surface of the sun.
Okay. Yeah. So
the Ring of Fire is an intimidating name, and it kind of should be. That's kind of a good indication that we don't want to look at it with our eyes.
But yeah, it's an interesting phenomena. I have yet to see any solar eclipse for that matter. There was one in 2017 that claimed to pass through Illinois, but the news hyped it up, right? They were like, yeah, it's passing through Illinois. They did not mention that it was only a small piece of it, and it was the southern piece. I am the very far north piece of the Illinois puzzle. I am so far north that the Wisconsin border is 5 minutes from my house. So the solar eclipse was coming nowhere near me. So I was super excited and I wanted to see it, and I stared at the sun. Don't do this, kids. I stared at the sun all day. Nothing happened. But I would love to see something like this at one of these points. I wonder if that has to do with our good friend Caleb said Bartleby's beads, but that's not
Bailey's beads.
Bailey's beads. Thank you.
Yep.
Bailey's
Francis
beads.
Bailey.
So does the Ring of Fire and the beads have any correlation with that? Do you know?
I think it's slightly different. So when we have that surface of the sun showing, it really is just kind of a bright, consistent circle. When we see the kind of beads, it's more so the actual texture on the edges of the moon. So things like valleys where a little bit of sunlight is kind of shining through them. So the moon almost perfectly covers the sun, but there's those little things like craters and valleys on the moon that a tiny bit of sunlight can kind of shine through. And it almost looks like kind of like pearls or beads around the edge of the moon.
That's really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Now, on the topic of solar eclipses, we have a couple of solar eclipses coming up, which is pretty cool. Because fun fact, if we're going to ignore the fact that humans have a life expectancy, and we're going to say that humans live forever. In my imaginary dream world where everything's happy, sunshine, and rainbows, humans live forever. If a human were to stay in their location forever. They're just going to live in their house and never move and never go anywhere. And they're hoping to see a solar eclipse. On average, it would take 375 years for an eclipse to occur there if you never moved.
Yeah, for a total to come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that is astonishing. I just no, because 365 days is a lot for me to think about, to live through every day. But 375 years.
That's almost 4 centuries.
I would much rather just go solar eclipse chasing, which is a thing. But we do have some coming up, and one of them is in October 14th, 2023 to be exact. But this one is an annular solar eclipse. So that means the sun is not going to be totally eclipsed by the moon. So you're only going to see a little bit. And Muncie, I believe we're getting 42% coverage.
Yeah, we're going to see it as a partial.
Yeah. And then on April 8th, 2024, we're supposed to get a total solar eclipse. Yay! Here in Muncie. Visible here in Muncie. Possibly. What is one problem that we may run into, crew, when it comes to solar eclipses?
April showers brings May flowers.
Yeah, well, maybe we can just be really nice to Mother Nature and maybe, recycle more and take care of our earth and be green. And, CO2 emissions are not that great. And I'm pretty sure Mother Nature's very upset. So maybe if we are nice to Mother Nature, we'll get
a few hours of clear skies on April 8th, 2024.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the whole day. You're right, Melanie. It does not have to be the whole day. Just that window so we can see it, and then April showers. Absolutely.
Because I don't know about y'all, I want my graduation present of a total solar eclipse.
Well, that's a cool gift. That would be nice.
That's what I've been asking for Christmas every year forever. I still haven't gotten it.
But the cool thing about solar eclipses is that they are a very awesome natural phenomena that I have heard is unlike anything else in the world to experience. And even so, this past year, I went to the American Astronomical Society conference in Seattle, Washington. It's a kind of just a big club of astronomers, professional and students of the like all get together and kind of present their research and talk about what they're doing. And while we were there, the solar eclipse was the big topic, right? Because it's really rare for a solar eclipse to even just be in the United States, even.
A total, yeah.
Yeah. So, they were talking about how they wanted to do studies on it, and a total solar eclipse is a chance to do a lot of cool research. But a lot of people were actually talking about how to be inclusive for those who are visually and hearing impaired, which is super, super cool. And one of the things they wanted to do for those who are visually impaired was actually do scientific studies on the ambiance, the sounds going on around you. Because when the moon eclipses the sun in a total eclipse, the sky does appear a little bit darker, and some say that they see the stars during the daytime because the stars are still there, but the sun is so bright we can't see them during the day. And when a total solar eclipse happens, you can see a couple of the bright ones shining through, and then some of the crickets start cricketing, and some of the birds go to sleep, and some of the chickens and cows and people are like, oh, it's nighttime, time to go to bed. So they start marching to their barn. And just hearing all of these nighttime sounds during the day is very interesting enough. And a lot of people want to study that and see if really the other living creatures, unlike us, are that influenced by just the light alone. They can automatically just be like, oh, it's dark, time to go to bed.
Yeah. Especially when it happens so suddenly in the middle of the day, it's really odd.
So you should totally come to our planetarium and watch the constellation show. I mean, the constellation, the eclipse show that we have.
Hey, I mean, Constellation Crew is probably still going to be talking about it, even though I may not be here. But yeah, definitely, please check out our social media. I've hyped it up enough, but seriously, we really do try to engage with you all, even if you don't decide to come to the planetarium because maybe you're not close, or maybe you just really don't feel like leaving your bed that morning because it's so cozy. We want to appeal to everyone, so we do have our social media pages for a reason. Please check them out. We're definitely going to be talking about it. So if anything is going on during those times and the planetarium is doing something, that is the best way to know if we are and when. So
yeah, it's going to be really, really incredible. I know some of the people around Muncie maybe saw the partial in 2017, but this really is going to be a totally different experience, no pun intended. of a total solar eclipse rather than a partial. And the biggest thing is definitely just going to be getting prepared, making sure we have the equipment that we need, because it is kind of a free thing, right? We can go outside and just have this big shared community experience with other people around. And really, it is once in a lifetime. And to kind of put it in perspective, for here in Muncie specifically, we have not had a total solar eclipse since 957. Not 1957, the year 957, over 1,000 years ago. So, like Nicolette said, we usually wait on average about 375 years. Well, Muncie has been waiting for over 1,000. I think it's our turn to have a total solar eclipse here. But again, there is kind of a path of totality that'll cut up through the United States. So, if you were really wanting to up your chances for good weather, there are some other locations you're welcome to try out. But for those of us here in Muncie, it'll be a great opportunity for us right at home.
Exactly. And even if you decide for whatever reason, which I do not recommend, that you don't want to, why would you not want to? But if you don't want to, or you just don't have the time that day or what have you, I will warn you that solar eclipses bring other phenomenons, such as immense amount of people and traffic. So if you really just don't want to see the solar eclipse for whatever reason, still keep up to date and visit our social media to know when they're occurring so that you know when's the day that you're going to be late for work. Because you will.
It is a
Guaranteed.
Monday.
Yeah. So I've heard horror stories of people. They're like, oh yeah, when it's about to start, there's no traffic. But the second the solar eclipse is over, and instead of me driving the hour to get there, it took me 8 hours to get home just to leave. So be prepared for that as well.
That's the good news about Muncie is we don't necessarily have to go anywhere.
Exactly. We
You
could
can
just
just
stay
go
here.
right in your backyard.
Exactly right. As long as you have all the safety equipment.
Yeah.
But all right, so that's kind of the end of our program. So I guess we can do some final thoughts really quick, and then we can move on to our Q&A for Melanie.
Yeah. Make sure you get those eclipse glasses ahead of time. Like we talked about, there's a lot that can go into it, especially if you're traveling. So just planning early, getting ahead of it. And I think it's going to be a really incredible experience.
Mm-hmm. And if I need to promote our social media again, beware. Make sure that they are good solar eclipse glasses when events like this come up. So, for example, I go to the Wisconsin State Fair every year with my family before school starts. And without fail, there are always people outside charging double the price for a Wisconsin State Fair ticket, and it's not real, it's fake. So please be careful when it comes to solar eclipse glasses. We do not want to hinder anyone's safety. So when it comes to buying your own, just make sure that you know for sure that they are safe. There are certifications and symbols and things to let you know that they are safe and good to use. So be aware of those as well. Any other thoughts?
I guess don't look at the sun. If you see the surface of the sun, any portion of the surface of the sun shining, you've got to have those eclipse glasses on.
Yep.
But only during a total solar eclipse, so that April 8th, 2024. Again, if you are in that path of totality where the moon will cover the entire surface of the sun, only during that about 3 minutes and 48 seconds for those of us here in Muncie is it safe to take your glasses off. Because I do also hear stories of people saying, don't look at the sun, don't take your eclipse glasses off. But once totality happens, they didn't take their glasses off and they actually ended up missing the totality phase. So it really is important to make sure you have your timing down for your location, make sure you have those glasses and you're wearing them at the appropriate time. And all of that information is available online. There's some great resources like time and date. For those of us here in Muncie, we have a brand new Eclipse page on the Planetarium website that's really helpful and has a lot of those resources as well. So we're here to get the information out, get it on your calendar, and just making sure we're ready to go the day of because it's going to be really amazing. I know it.
Yay!
And we're going to have great weather, right?
Yes, absolutely. I believe it. And if I believe it, it'll happen.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to our mini Q&A. And of course, we're going to start off with... Actually, we're going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to ask Kyree's questions first.
Wow, okay. So, Mel, what is one thing you wish you knew before joining the astronomy field?
Before joining at all, I guess just having that... It's a good question. Having that general curiosity and knowing that I could do astronomy in my own way. So knowing that I don't have to be a research professor with a chalkboard covered in equations to be an astronomer, right? And I think there are so many different ways to be an astronomer or be involved in astronomy, and just finding kind of what inspires you and what you're good at makes it more enjoyable, right? There are so many different things you can do. So just kind of trusting myself and saying, I am capable of doing it, I can do it, and that there are a million different ways to be an astronomer.
Well, there you go. All right. So I have a couple of questions for you. I think I already know this one already, but our viewers may not remember. So we'll remind them. What is your favorite constellation and why?
What do you think it is?
Cassiopeia.
You're right. It is Cassiopeia because she kind of changes shapes in the sky. It has sort of a W shape to it, or an E, or sometimes an M for Melanie. So I really like Cassiopeia because it's usually kind of up high in the sky in the summer months. So it always reminds me of summer and those long summer nights of looking up at the sky. And again, part way through the year, it'll be M for Melanie. So
There you go. I just now realized that all three of us might be in the same boat. I can never find my name on a keychain or ornament or any of that. Never happens. And everyone's like, "Oh, I've seen Nicolette before on a keychain." Yeah, they spell it with either a CH or two L's or one T. That doesn't count. I don't know about you all if you suffer the same fate as me.
you just got to find a constellation for your name instead.
Well, like, yeah, there's a thing. There was a big boom in the '80s where you could buy a star and name it and say, "Oh yeah, that's the star." I would like a Nicolette constellation, but yeah, my name only means French victory. You know, it is what it is. Anyway, so my next question is, what is your favorite astronomical object and why? So it doesn't have to be a constellation; it could be something
Okay.
else.
That is such a big question. I'm going to give maybe a lame answer, but I'm going to keep it kind of general to nebulae. I think
Nice.
they're all so unique. So those kind of, beautiful wispy structures we see that are essentially a big cloud of gas and dust. And I think when it comes to astronomy, we have so many of these questions of where do stars come from? Where do all of these different things come from? And the answer is a big cloud of gas and dust out in space. And so I think they're very universal, and there's different things going on in different nebulae where we have, again, things like stars forming. Um, and they're also just very beautiful, so that they have kind of different colors, which can give us clues. You can make different shapes out of them, almost like we do with the stars in our sky to make constellations. And they're all just very unique, very beautiful, and they're essentially just a big cloud of dust out in space, but really spectacular looking clouds of dust.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Nebulae are actually pretty cool. I thought that,
Yeah.
and Bob would disagree with me. Galaxies are pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but I think nebulae are way cooler, especially since
Yeah, and it's like you kind of think of the biggest and the smallest things all made of dust, right? The same kind of material, just gas and dust in different forms.
there you go. My last question that I have, and then we have one from Dana. But my last question is what would you say to younger you or our young viewers watching us today about getting into astronomy?
That's another good question. Kind of similar to Kyrie's question, I would say really find what you like about astronomy. Don't necessarily let the math scare you away because, like I said, there are so many different things you can do in astronomy. So find your strength, find what you love, and then find a piece of astronomy that works with that. And you can be successful at it. Because it turns out, I don't know if you know this, the universe is huge. So there's a lot out there, a lot of different ways you can get involved. So really just find what you're good at, find what interests you, and find some way to get involved, and do something that you love. Like I said, you don't always have to be doing crazy math problems. If you are, please do it. We definitely need all the help we can get
Yes.
with,
Because I'm not
the
going to
big
do that
math
math.
and doing things like that. But I always say, you know, our astronauts, they don't just get in a rocket ship in their backyard and take a weekend trip to the moon, right? It takes all sorts of people from all around the world, different backgrounds, to make these missions happen, to build these robots, to build these telescopes, to, you know, get the data back and what do we do with the data and to go through the data. So again, there are a million different ways you can get involved in astronomy. So just find something that works for you, find what you love, and find a little piece of it that you're good at.
I also just love that you just hit us with the spoiler alert for season 4.6 billion. The universe is huge.
Yeah.
Ruin it for you. Spoiler alert, the universe is huge.
Yeah. It's
And
really
there's a lot out there. So we need your help.
Yes, very much.
Team effort for sure.
All right, and our final question for you from our planetarium director, Dina. She asks, as a young professional, what have you learned in your professional career that surprised you?
I would say specifically as a young professional, like Nicolette said, I was on the original season of Constellation Crew as a student. So kind of making this transition into quote unquote the real world, right? The
Hashtag real
working
world.
world where you're no longer in school, I think can be really scary to a lot of people graduating high school, college, you know, moving on to whatever that next big step is. But again, if you're doing something that you love, it sounds very cheesy, but they're like, you don't work a day in your life if you do what you love. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily true, but the fact that you can really love what you do and it doesn't feel like this intimidating big adventure of, well, now I have to go to work every day for the rest of my life. You know, it's not like your professional career has to be something that scares you or that feels daunting in some way. It's something that you can really love and you can really enjoy, and it doesn't have that kind of weight to it that I think we often give ourselves before we make that jump. So again, finding something that you love, something that you're good at, and it really things just kind of fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the workforce, the labor force, however you want to describe it, always makes it feel like that you need to work in order to live, but that doesn't have to be the case. You're right. You can definitely
Yeah,
work, but it doesn't need to be the reason why you're here and alive and doing things. It can
yeah.
just be
Find
a
your
healthy.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, find your purpose. And it also really kind of let me know or reminded me, which is always a nice reminder, that I can do things that are hard. Like, believe it or not, you can do hard things and things that seem challenging or impossible. Like, you are capable, you can do them. Um, and I think that's a really important lesson to learn. You know, every time you make it over one of these hurdles or things, you can do things that are hard.
Exactly. Finding that out myself. Well, um, that pretty much wraps up this episode. Unless you guys have any questions for me.
I have some questions for you, Nicolette.
Yay!
I know you've been on Constellation Crew for quite a while. You've been hosting for quite a while. So I was wondering if you happen to have a favorite episode or maybe a favorite memory from an episode. I know there's been a lot of them.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I don't necessarily have a favorite episode, but I guess in terms of a memory, so kind of like what you described of like you can always do hard things, don't discourage yourself. When Dana first started talking to me about joining Constellation Crew, I was like, we're going to be live. I'm going to be on a camera and I'm going to be talking to people. No. Like it just and I'm a theater kid. I'm a band kid, a choir kid. All of that is nothing but audiences watching me and criticizing how I sing, act, and play my trumpet. It's nothing but that. But for some reason this was a little bit more personal. I don't know why. It always scared me. And if you go back to old episodes, you'll probably see me in my prime with one, very short hair, and two, me very nervous and scared. But as you keep watching the episodes, at least for me, I started to notice that I started to really branch out a little bit more, get more comfortable, and go from, hi, my name's Nicolette, to welcome back to Constellation Crew. It is me, your number one goofball host, here to make you laugh. That's so I guess my favorite memory is really starting to be myself and embrace who I am and finding a career, because this is definitely something I want to do for the rest of my life, be a planetarian. finding my career and my voice, and therefore being able to branch out and be the person that I was always destined to be. And Constellation Crew gave that to me.
I love that. Yeah, and it's like when you're on an episode or a series like this, you have literal recordings of watching yourself grow, and we've definitely seen that in you. And I'm glad it helped you in a beneficial way. I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely.
And you're very good at what you do, so I hope you keep doing it.
Thank you.
I guess that kind of leads into another question I had, which was, I guess, just what's your favorite part of being a crew member?
That actually has a different response. So when I was in high school and I really started to understand how school worked and got good at it, because when I first started out, all I wanted to do was go outside and have nap time and play recess. Once I really started to like school, I was very, very, very independent, to the point where anytime we had to do a group assignment, I would walk straight up to the teacher and say, absolutely not, can I do it myself? And every single time the teacher would say, Nicolette, you have to do group work. The real world has groups. And I'm like, you know what? Joke's on you. I'm going to become a scientist. And you know what a scientist is? A leader. And they don't have to do anything or work with people. They can just do what they want when they want. And that's how I want my life to be. And if I could just talk to myself back then, I would just be like, honey, no, because that's really not how the world works. My teachers were right. You are going to have to work with groups, even if you don't like it. You have to. It's just the human condition. Not only just because sometimes you're stuck working with groups just because of how the project is designed, but also when humans work together, you get more done. Get more done efficiently. You get more done in general. You get it's just better off working with more instead of one. And crew reminded me what it feels like to actually work with a group. Because up until that point, I really did either force my partner to be the silent partner and I did it all by myself, or I ended up doing it anyway because I was the good kid paired with the not so good kid, so that the good kid could rub off on the not so good kid. And being on crew, it reminded me that there are people in this world who do have the same passions as you, who do care about the same things that you do, or do care about their work in general, or in this case, their grade. When you go to college, the group work does get a smidge better because you're all working for the same thing. And just feeling that amazing group dynamic and having this almost euphoric completeness when a task is done and it was done faster than before, better than before. That's why I always say crew, and it's Constellation Crew. It's not just about me, because the crew reminded me that group work is, one, very important, and two, working with like-minded individuals is just an amazing experience, and I would recommend it for pretty much everyone to give it a try at least once.
Awesome. I guess that makes me think, do you have anything you're gonna maybe miss most about it?
Other than the friends that I've made, um, probably just this kind of freedom, right? Because we make astronomy really, really fun. Not that astronomy isn't fun to begin with. Looking at nebulae is amazing, and looking at the stars is great. I just find that sometimes, especially when you're young, any form of science right away when you're young, adults don't take you very seriously. And when you try to talk about it, they're like, oh, kids, look at you. Aren't you smart? You read a book. And it's like, no, I'm really engaged and I'm learning and I'm trying here. And crew makes it a safe space for kids of the like, or even those who are older who also have the same experience, where because they're older and never went to college, or because they are older and didn't get a science degree, they're also not taken seriously as well. And crew makes it a safe space to make science fun, but also for everyone. I'm going to miss that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I guess I only have one more. Kyrie, do you have any?
I don't think I do.
Cool.
It's weird.
Yeah, the
It's
only thing
really
I
weird.
have
I
is
feel
I've
like
got
I
the
have
big
like
one.
stuff to say, but like at the same time I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the big one of what is your favorite constellation?
Oh boy.
You've talked
Hmm.
about so many of them here.
Yeah, and the trouble is that it's really hard for me to have a favorite. Um, because I'm not the same astronomy girl. Almost every person that I've ever talked to who got into astronomy, most of their first ever experience is constellations and stargazing. And don't get me wrong, The reason why I started getting into astronomy is because my sister used to take me stargazing every chance she could get for sisterly bonding, and I asked her big questions like, what else is out there? And she couldn't answer me. But that's the whole point, is that I wasn't paying attention to the sky. I didn't connect the dots much. I never really looked up at the sky until I came to the planetarium. And really like looked at the constellations, I guess. I would look up to the sky and wonder, but I never looked at a constellation really. It took me forever to recognize Orion the Hunter. So, but I guess because of it's a tie between two. One is Ursa Major, for my obvious worry of where this children's book is, because I miss it and it's a fond memory, and it's really rare when you find a book that plays sounds or lights up, even if it's a kid's book. And two, Leo, only because I still have beef with the fact that it looks like a mouse and not a lion.
That's a hot take.
And I convinced our department head, Dr. John Millis, he was here either last episode or 2 episodes ago as our guest, and I convinced him. He now sees it and he's like, yeah, that looks like a mouse. Because it does. It does. You gotta connect the dots the right way, man. Art is very, what's the word? Intuitive?
Would you still name it Leo, or would you change its name if it was a mouse? I feel like Leo's not a mouse name.
What's the mouse's name? There's in Cinderella, the one who eats all the cheese.
Oh.
His name.
Okay.
But I don't remember his name.
I don't either.
Audience members, comment down below what his name is.
Shocks? Shocks? Something like that?
Shocks.
I may be thinking of it wrong.
I don't know why, but Theodore is coming to mind.
That almost sounds right.
Almost, but not quite. All of our young
We'll figure it out.
viewers are like, what are you talking about? Gus Gus.
Gus Gus.
That's
Gus,
it.
okay.
It just hit me.
It is
I
Jock
was
and
like,
Gus.
oh.
Jock and
That's
Gus.
the new one, Gus Gus.
Okay.
You know what? From now on, it's not Leo the Lion, it's Gus Gus. Done.
Deal.
Yeah, no, I was remembering the other one.
Yeah, I forgot what the other one is.
Jacques.
Is it Jacques?
It's JAQ. I don't know the specific
Jacques.
pronunciation, but it's Jacques and Gus.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Cinderella is a French fairy tale. Maybe.
Right, there we go. We've even got the backstory for Gus Gus, so we're good to go.
Yay! That's so cute. Oh, great. Now that I'm never going to look at it the same way again. And I think this is Gus Gus here. Sup? All right, well, I feel like we should probably end this episode relatively soon because our crew audience has been here long enough. But thank you all for joining me for my last episode, including my crew members. Thank you for coming aboard our little ship crew here, our spaceship crew. It's been an honor of being your guys' host. It's been amazing. I really, really enjoyed it, and I really feel like I'm a new and better person and have gained a lot of skills from this experience. So I appreciate you not only bearing with me, but joining me on this mission. Anything else before we go?
We're gonna miss you so much, Nicolette, as our host.
Oh, thanks. All right, well, that is all I have for you guys, and goodbye to our audience members. See y'all next time.
I can't believe they're all leaving me.